let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we are going to first introduce ourselves and then we'll get started. I'm Dr. Weber. I'm going to be talking about programming your day one beginner exercise program routine. We would just call this beginner phase one, day one. Okay, and so we're going to go over from start to scratch how you can kind of formulate your day one program. So we want to make sure that we have four distinct patterns, which is going to be one, the push, two, the pull, three, the squat, and four, the hinge. Okay, these are our four main patterns. And then we also want to tie in a huge component, which is core and breathing. Okay, so those will come together. So we're always kind of thinking about the core and breathing throughout these four lifts. And then also we'll have components of breathing and core by themselves. So breathing and core is going to come into play in all of our exercises. When it comes to core, we're looking for a stacked position here. So we have our ribs and then we have our pelvis, okay? And when we stack this area in a 360-degree manner, from side to side, front to back, we get more intra-abdominal pressure. So when we squat, we maintain that neutral position to be able to carry out more explosive movements. When we hinge, we also want to keep that core stacked, and that's going to give us a little bit more control in our hinge. When it comes to our pushing, again, our core is stacked. We don't want to be extending the back too much. Okay, and then when it comes to pulling, we want to make sure, again, when we're pulling, our ribs and pelvis are stacked. If we're pulling overhead, we want to make sure we're not arching our back like this. We want to make sure our core is stacked when we're pulling. So that's what we mean by core. When it comes to breathing, we want to perform breathing exercises before the workout, and then we want to continue those breathing exercises specifically during core sets and have a strategy for how to breathe when you stretch and how to breathe when you move. So typically you want to breathe in and out through your nose all day long. When you do breathing exercises, it's typically in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then when you exercise, it's typically exhales out through the mouth when you're exercising, and taking inhales and holding your breath in some cases if you're doing something powerful. So breathing is interplayed throughout the entire workout. So the first thing we're going to perform is a foam roll set. And for the foam roll, we want to hit each body part 5 times. Okay, and then we want to go over full body. Okay, and then we want to hold areas of tension. And that's kind of our mantra right there. So we're going to roll each body part about 5 times, hold into areas of tension. And throughout that process, you're focusing on slow diaphragmatic breathing. So inhaling through the nose, feeling 360, and then exhaling as long as you can and as slow as you can. Okay, so there's your foam rolling. The second thing we're going to do is our stretch circuit, or we can call that mobility. Okay, this is when we're going to add in body part stretches. So we're going to, again, body parts. So each specific body part. So we're going to, hip rotators would be a major one, right? T-spine or spine in general. Okay, hamstrings and quads. Then you're going to have your upper body. Maybe you could think about neck. Okay, so neck rotations and nods. And then you can also think about the ankle by itself and really doing some nice movements with the ankle, inversion, eversion, plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, those types of things. And then other than that, you may get your adductors. Okay. And there's your stretch and mobility circuit. After your stretch and mobility circuit, you're going to then continue into what we call activation or stability. So this is when we're going to be using our core, our stack position to move either the shoulders or the hips specifically. So for example, would be a floor slide or a leg lower, which are very common during this phase, and then also a hip lift. And you'd want to do bi and unilateral for your hip lifts. Okay, so those would be 3 different specific movements. You could also factor in shoulder and hip cars or any type of controlled specific movements, activation drill for the scaps or the hips. So something like a retraction in a prone position on your stomach with some weights or bands in the half kneeling position, diagonal, half kneeling, pull aparts, those types of things. Okay, after your activation and stability, you're going to get into your dynamic warm up. These are going to be movements that are going to be compound movements that involve the whole entire body. So something like an inchworm, a push-up, okay, something like a cat and cow. You could probably put that anywhere. Inchworm push-up, you could also add in your split squat, lateral squat, and single leg deadlift. Okay, you have your knee cradles, knee pull, and quad, heel to butt. So we'll just call that a quad stretch, but we'll go over those in a little bit. So that's the knee to chest. Then you're going to have cradle, and then heel to butt. All right, and then you also want to factor in some lateral movements as well. So thinking linear on day 1 and lateral on day 2, and then just alternating between linear and lateral dynamic exercises. So anything laterally would be something like a scissors or a sidestep or karaoke, something like that. And so adding in linear and lateral movements. Something linear would be marching, skipping, hopping, jumping, that type of thing. And you can do those in all planes of motion. So then going into some more dynamic movements like march, like we talked about, skip, jump, okay? And these can be linear, these can be lateral, and you can also add in your ladder exercises here. So after we've completed our dynamic warm-up, then we're gonna get into our power and speed work. So if you are on day 1, that would be something more of a tempo run or a sled push. Okay, if you don't have either available, then you may just perform an explosive or power movement in place of that, okay? Generally, athletes will want to perform their sprints on day 1, and on day 2, they won't sprint, and on day 3, they will sprint, that type of thing. So any type of speed or sprinting will go here. And then you'll add in either an explosive, like I said, or Olympic movement. And you'll pair that with a med ball or some type of plyometric exercise. Okay, and then that's 1, that's 2. And then you can pair this together as 2, or you could also triset that with a core exercise if you're trying to get more metabolic burn, that type of thing, trying to get more done in your amount of time. So you can do a single set, a double set, or a triple set, basically. So you can just pick 1 explosive exercise. You can pick up to 3 explosive exercises, okay? Next, we're gonna go into the strength part of our workout. So the strength part of our workout is gonna consist of lower body, upper body, and core exercises. And this is gonna be pod 1. We're gonna have pod 2. We're gonna have pod 3. And then optional pod 4. And what we mean by pod is that there's 3 in a pod. Okay. Lower upper core, specifically lower upper core, lower upper core, lower upper and core. Okay. Think Luke when you're thinking planning for strength. After we have that set up, we want to know on our first pod, what is going to be that specific movement of that lower body day that we're going to focus on? So is it a squat or a hinge pattern? So we're going back to, which is our lower body here and our upper body here. Our push and pull would be upper, lower body would be our squat and hinge. So do we want to focus on a squat pattern today? In that case, I would start with that squat pattern in this first set. If I want to focus on a hinge pattern, then I would focus on a hinge pattern, okay? If I want to specifically focus on a push or pull pattern, I would put that first. So instead of lower upper core, I'd go upper lower core. So if I really was focusing on pull-ups that day or bench press, I would add that exercise first. So make sure that you're going maybe from upper body to lower body, so you're not stimulating the lower or upper body too much when you go from day 1 to day 2 to day 3 to day 4. So every day you're kind of alternating. You're going to start with an upper, or you're going to start with a lower. Maybe some phases you're always going to start upper. Some phases you may always start lower, but in your beginning phase, I would alternate. So now that we have that established, my lower, we'll go with that squat pattern. The upper is going to be a push pattern, and then our core is going to be an anti-extension pattern. Okay, and we'll talk more about what that means. For pod 2, lower upper core. So we did squat pattern, so now we're going to alternate. It's going to go to hinge pattern. There's 2 patterns for lower body. For upper, since we did push, we'll go pull. Since we did anti-extension, we'll go anti-lateral flexion. Okay, I'll put optional, pod 3. And then for pod 3, or pod 4, so for optional pod 3, we have lower upper core. We've done a squat and a hinge pattern. Today's a squat dominant day since we started with the squat. Since we're doing it in the sagittal plane, we're going to do it in the frontal plane here. So we'll go lateral squat. Okay. And then upper, since we started with push, we'll end with push. So this can be any other type of push that we can think of, a push-up modification. If we started with a dumbbell press, if we started with a push-up modification, maybe we're just doing a plank hip flexion hold. Okay, so for the core here, since we've done anti-extension and anti-lateral flexion, we'll do a diagonal pattern. Since we have diagonal options such as chopping and lifting, which we want to make sure we hit each week, that cross-body coordination is super important for our core. Okay, so that's pod 1, 2, and 3. So you're pretty much done here. I leave pod 4 open for you to decide what you think you need. So if you want to build your arms, if you want to build more of your legs or calves, if you want to focus on your hips or shoulders and corrective exercises, this is when you perform that in pod 4. But you don't want to miss out on pod 1, 2, or 3. Those are going to be really important that you're consistent with that each time you work out. Okay. So pod 4, you can leave it. Let's just say you're doing lower and you wanted to do some calves here. Upper, let's just say you did arms, and then core, you could do, if you wanted to do your maybe some leg lifts, any type of unfunctional exercise like sit-ups or crunches, go for it. Okay, this is your time to explore your body. You can do whatever you want, but I don't recommend crunches or sit-ups. So obviously you might want to think of an anti-rotation exercise, so maybe a bear plank reach, or even a plank clock exercise. So I would say anti-rotation, but that's just me. If you want to do whatever, you can do whatever you want there. So there's our pods 1 through 4. After we're done with our strength, we go into our conditioning. Now, conditioning, 2 options: bike or tread or outside, whatever. And then 2 options: HIIT training or LSD, or long slow duration training, zone 2 cardio. So we have our zone 2 cardio and we have our HIIT training here. You decide what you want to do. HIIT training is when you are on them for about 10 to 15 seconds and then you're off for about 20 to 30 seconds. and then you're going to repeat that for 4 to 8 reps on day one, phase one, 4 reps, okay, at about 50 to 70% intensity, okay. And then long, slow duration, you want to go be at a nice, comfortable speed where your heart rate is at a zone two level or where you're able to talk and move at the same time without feeling uncomfortable for over 20 to 30 minutes. So 20 to 40 minutes would be the key number here. 20 at the very low end, 30 prime at the middle, and 40 maybe at the upper end. You probably don't want to go into 60 minutes since you've already done all this stuff. Now, if you are just training for conditioning on off days, so off day conditioning, which you should do. So let's just say you work out on Monday, there's your workout on Tuesday. You could do your off day conditioning, your ODC. On Wednesday, could be your workout. Thursday could be your ODC. And then you have Friday as your workout. And then either Saturday or Sunday would be your ODC, off day conditioning. Or you can also add in your mobility work, which would be maybe something like your yoga if you wanted to do that on Saturday or Sunday, or if you wanted to switch that out if you're looking for more of a mental decompression, adding something in like yoga, okay, or any type of breathing practice. So that would be something I might do on my off day conditioning days. Now, off day conditioning, you want to think um, 30 to 60 minutes, okay, or 30 to 90 minutes, okay, whatever your threshold is at zone two. We want to think 150 to 300 minutes a week. So if you did 1, 2, 3 days, that would mean you need about 50 minutes per day to get that 150-minute number. So that's why it's important to build up to that, either going 10 minutes your first phase a week for your first month, and going 20 minutes, and then going from 10 all the way to 150 minutes. And if it takes you 10 months to get there or a year, just go up 10 minutes a month. Okay. But slowly or surely, you want to get up to 150 minutes. Then you can add in longer time. So you could do 60 minutes times 3 sessions. That's 180. And then you could add in maybe a fourth day. Okay. And that's 4 sessions at 240 minutes. Okay. Something that you can do that doesn't cause any pain or injury. So something maybe like a bike, or maybe going outside for a nature walk. All right. So that is the entire program. So we're going to go over an example exercise for each of these components of the program. So let me get time to set up and we'll get started. All right, here. All right. Grab a little bit of water. See what we got here. All right. So when you're mobility training, you always want to make sure that you have some mats, different shapes, sizes, textures, whatever. This is a nice slippery mat. It helps you get into positions a little bit better. All right. So I'll start barefoot, but I'll probably end up with socks and shoes on. And I'll try to give you an overview of how to use these devices and what to perform for your stretches for the beginning of your mobility program, and then also with your breathing exercises. Okay, so I have a foam roller, an orb ball here that I can use. I have a couple mats. I have a box, and you're going to need a wall or some type of device to push into. Okay, we're going to perform some ankle mobility exercises as well, like we talked about. So sometimes we need a wall for some specific stretches. So the first thing we talked about was foam rolling, each body part for about 5 rolls each. This is your typical foam roller. This is a low density foam roller. They have high density foam rollers and low density foam rollers. Beginners are probably going to want low density long rollers. So just look for a low density long roller, work your way up to a high density roller. First thing you're going to do is just sit down. If you need your back against the wall here when you sit down, if that helps, if you feel like you're using too much back, you can use it as support. I'm just going to put one ankle on the roller. My other foot is just going to be hanging out. So that's what it's going to look like on that side. I'm first going to just move side to side, right above my heel, just side to side, and work my way up side to side. Get a feel for how your calf feels to start. And then we're going to go and move from our calf to our ankle. Now, if I want to add more pressure, I can lift my glutes off the ground, but I have to use my hands and shoulders. So if that doesn't work for you in phase one, don't worry about it. So phase one will last about 4 weeks. Okay. And after you're done with phase one, maybe you want to add in a little bit more pressure during your foam rolling. So getting the other side, again, about 5 rolls. I like to go side to side first. Again, focusing on my breathing. Rolling each side. And then from here, I'm going to put a little bit more pressure, go up and down, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the third component of rolling is trying to find a spot, or if you find a spot of tension, holding that area and breathing deeply into that area. Okay. Next will be the glutes. I'm going to sit on the roller. I'm going to lean to one side. Both knees are stacked. I'm just going to move up and down into the hip, looking for areas of tension about 5 times. And then I'm going to cross the leg and do the same thing, looking for an area of tension here. With the low density rollers, you may have to pick it up and move to a different area of the roller if the density is starting to flatten. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to the other side. Again, just pushing the hip into the area first. Crossing the hip over. I can go side to side here or up and down. And if I find an area of tension, which I've found, and I'm just going to hold and breathe. Then I'm going to move to the low back. So if you have back pain or issues, one, I wouldn't start a phase one program until you're uninjured. So if you do have back issues, I might steer clear of this one. Otherwise, we're just going to sit on the roller or place our lower back on the roller into a bridge position, relax, and we're just going to move those knees side to side. Then I'm going to bring one, if you feel comfortable here, you're going to bring one foot underneath the opposite knee. You kind of roll toward that side, and you're going to feel a little pressure in the lower back on that side. And then you'll switch sides after a couple rocks or inhales and exhales. From here, I'm going to stiffen the core, sit up, place the roller on my mid back to upper back, and keep my glutes on the ground here. Then I'm going to cross my hands across the chest, and I'm going to just do an arch over the roller. I should feel a little pressure in the upper back, and then I'm going to flex forward. I don't want to move from my lower back. I just want to move from my upper back. So I'm trying to segment the spine around the roller. I'm just going for 3 of those. Next, I'm going to move up and down the roller from my upper back to mid back. I'm going to bring my elbows together as I do that. And what that does is it helps you get the scapula away from each other so you can push into the rhomboids. Okay. Try it one more time. Okay, don't worry if it doesn't look good at first. It takes a while to learn this. Next, we're going to move to the shoulder and armpit and chest. We're going to roll forward to the chest, out to the lat, and then roll to the chest, out to the lat, and then up and down from the lat. Your lat is this muscle on the side of your body. It helps you reach overhead. So that is what gets tight. And so if we can loosen that up a little bit, especially if we're going to do any type of pulling exercises, it's going to be good. And especially if we're doing any type of overhead exercises, that would be a good thing to use is some overhead shoulder work. So that's what we're pushing into and working on here. So I'm just kind of rocking side to side, looking for areas of tension. If I find an area of tension, I just kind of relax and hold. And now I'm going to go ahead and switch side. Exhaling out the mouth. From here, chest to back. Pushing the roller into the back, the lats, and chest. And up and down into that area. Rolling the back of the shoulder in that area as well. And if there's any areas of tension, just holding that area and breathing into it. Next, we're going to get the thighs, starting with the inside thighs or adductors. I'm just going to kind of drape my leg over the adductor and bring my toe down as I roll from the knee to the hip. About 5 rolls. Or if you find a nice spot, you may just kind of hold it there after 3 or 4, maybe 5 rolls. Next, we're going to get that same leg, but we're going to get the top of that leg slightly to the outside where the pocket is. This is what we call our TFL. And we're just moving from the front to the side of the hip. You'll feel it if you bend the knee and then move the foot toward the ground and away from the ground. You'll feel that muscle pop into the roller. And then from here, we'll move to the outside of the roller or the outside of the quad from the knee to the hip. And you can maneuver from the front to the inside to the outside. And then we'll switch. So inside thigh to start. Toe down, drape the leg. You can relax into the roller. Go for about 5 rolls. I can already feel that TFL on that side kind of tightening up. That's why it's important to make sure that we give it a little bit of attention first. Let's work on the TFL on the other side. And doing this barefoot is going to be just good in general for the feet and toes in general, getting them some air. And then from here, outside quad. Make sure you move the roller if you feel like it's dampening or depressing. And if it's too hard, then try to either move around that issue or go slightly above or below it. All right. So that's how you foam roll the whole body. Now we're going to get into our stretching. So we talked about hip rotators, a couple different ways you can do that. You can do an elevated pigeon, which most people aren't going to be able to do. So I'll show you some progressions of that. Basically, we're bringing the foot and knee on the box. And this is actually really advanced, okay? So don't feel like you have to do this one. Tuck that back toe, and we're gonna stretch that front hip, all right? Now that's usually not available for everybody. So a good one for beginners is just the 90-90 position. All right. And if you need some supports or like a wall, you can just go like that and get into this position to stretch out that front hip. So this is that 90-90 position. Okay. And when we're holding this position, we want to think chest up, hinge over the knee, look straight ahead, and breathe as you hold this stretch. You should feel it in the outside of that hip. And you want to generally focus on about 15 to 30 seconds of focused breathing, or about 3 to 5 inhales and exhales. So a good strategy is the breathing, because then you know that you're able to hold that position comfortably. Otherwise, you could be either hyperventilating or holding your breath too long, which we don't want. We want you to feel comfortable and relax in these positions. Now, I'm going to move from hip external rotation stretch to hip internal rotation stretch. I'm going to torque or place my hands behind me, kind of corkscrew them in the ground, and rotate toward that back hip. I'm going to feel that TFL, especially if I were to go like that. I can press that back leg down as I hold this position, and then relax. Press down, bring my hip forward, and then relax. Now we're going to move to the other side. Breathing, inhaling through the nose, long exhale out. Just pretend that you have a straw in your mouth. If you feel like you're not able to get it all out, just let it out. Then from here, I'm going to rotate back, drive my feet into the ground and the knee into the ground as I rotate back. Squeeze the glute, relax, squeeze the glute, relax, and rotate into it, squeeze the glute. All right, so there's your hip rotator. Next, T-spine, a huge area that we want to talk about. There's a couple ways we can do this. There's the T-spine rotation from the V stance position. So it's placing your hand on the ground right in the middle of your body, rotating open and looking up at the ceiling, placing your hand across the chest to start. Then you can work your hand behind your head and then also behind your back, or your arm teed out. Okay, either way, we hold and breathe for about 15 seconds. Another way we can do that is by getting on the hands and knees, widening your knee stance, getting down, bringing your elbows in front of the knees. Same thing, reach across the chest, open up, look up at the ceiling, and then this is going to be where people struggle the most to breathe and hold. So we're going to hold this position, either hand behind the head or behind the back or toward the sky. You're going to inhale through the nose, exhale out the mouth. Try to get your chin away from your shoulder. And then switching side. And notice that I took long breaths in that position. From here, I'm going to rotate open the other way. Chin away from the shoulder. Breathe. Hand behind the head. Okay, and then come out of that position. So there's your T-spine rotation. We can also do T-spine extension by placing our elbows on top of a box, stiffening our fists, and then from here, keeping our knees slightly wide, we're gonna just let our chest sink through. And try to feel this just in the upper back. Try not to round or extend too much from the lower back. Try to almost keep that tucked and focus just on the upper back. And just long exhales. And then slowly come out of this position. From there, we'll go into some cat-cows, hands and knees, around the back, tuck the chin. Big exhale. And then we're going to articulate as we inhale from the low spine all the way to the upper spine. And then we're going to exhale when we get here. We'll tuck the chin on our inhale. Round it all the way out. Exhale. Okay, and those are some cat-cows. You can do those all day, every day. Those are an awesome therapy exercise. From here, we're going to move into our hamstrings and our quads. So for hamstring, it's nice to have the wall or a box always beside you. I'm just going to get into a half kneeling or a kneeling position and straighten one leg out front. Keep that toe up. Don't let it go out to the side. And then from here, I'm going to just breathe into this hamstring. Okay, if you feel it behind the knee, that's more of a nerve. So we want to make sure that we feel it in the belly of the hamstring. You may need to slightly bend the knee for that, okay? More advanced would be to straighten the knee, but if you feel it behind the knee, then you're not really getting the hamstrings. From here, toe is up, breathing, inhale and exhale. Switching after about 15 to 30 seconds or 3 to 5 inhales and exhales, whatever comes first. All right, now with that same box or wall, I'm going to get into a half kneeling position right in front of it. I'm going to place my foot on top of the box or into the wall. I can tuck my toe if it's a wall. Okay, I can't do that with a box because the box will move back. From here, I want to drive that knee as close as I can to the box or wall. And then I want to sit up nice and tall. If that's too tight, I'm just going to hold here. And if I can't bend my knee that much, then start here. And just hold for only 15 to 30 seconds and then switch side. Do not hold here if you're in pain right now. Okay, switch side or get out of it. From here, I'm going to hold, inhale, exhale. I'm just looking at the horizon or straight ahead. Okay, and then switch side. Try not to have too much arch in the back here. Tuck the pelvis if you can. Any pain, get out of it and just get in a lower position. Definitely tighter on my left side than my right side. All right, so there's your quad, your hamstring. Now we'll move to the neck rotations. So we'll get back to that hands and knees position. We're going to curl the toes behind us, sit on those toes, arch the back, and then we're going to look up. Then we're going to look all the way down, but don't move anything else but the neck. Look all the way up. If this is too much on your back, you can just go like this. Down, up, down, all the way up, all the way down. Now we're going to look over your shoulder. Try to bring your chin over your shoulder. Try to look back and around. And then we're going to rotate the other way. And rotate. 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 and rotate. All right, now we're just gonna clean it up. You can do this kneeling or sitting on your heels here. We're just gonna go all the way around. Full circle. If there's any pain, discontinue this movement or go around it and don't go into the pain. Just going all the way around, 2 full circles each way. You're just tracing your chin around a clock. Chin almost touches the collarbone as you round the corners. All right, so there's your neck, and then ankle and adductor. For your ankle and adductor, we'll perform the adductor rock and then the Spider-Man stretch. So knees are far apart. We're gonna round that lower back and sink into this stretch. Just kind of rock forward and back. And then after about 5 rocks, I'm gonna go into a long lever position. Same thing, but I wanna keep my torso up here. Rock back. If I can, try to keep that pinky toe down. And then switch side carefully. Okay, and then another good one is the Spider-Man stretch. Starting in the hands and knees position, one leg back, one leg forward, hands touching that foot. Widen the stance. Then we're gonna rock our whole body outward. Keep that foot flat and that big toe down. And then we're gonna open up. Okay, if you don't feel anything in that back hip, bring that back leg further back. Other side. So again, bring that back knee further back. If you can't feel a stretch in the back hip flexor, just feel it back here. And then the front adductor when we rock out. Make sure the hand, elbow, shoulder is connected to the leg. And this just looks like this, but one leg version. Okay, same thing. So same type of stretch. Adductors here. All right, so now we're gonna move to the ankle. Talked about needing a wall. Another version you can do is half kneeling, bringing your foot about 5 inches away from the box or wall, and then driving the knee over the toe until the knee taps the wall. If it taps easily, bring your foot back. Measure the distance between the wall and your toe, but the heel has to stay down as you go knee over toe. You should at least get 4 inches. If it's under that, then you want to practice this a little bit more. And if you have good ankles, you should be able to get about 5 inches away from the wall with the big toe. Remember, keeping that heel down. Use the wall for support as you drive the knee over the toe. Okay. Next, I'll show you the standing version, which most people should probably start off with. You're gonna push into the wall, foot and toe 5 inches away. Back foot we're using as a stabilizer. We're gonna drive the knee over the toe, push into the wall, keep the front heel down. Same thing, about 5 rocks each. Okay, you can progress this by going 3 different ways, in and out, but for phase 1, just focus on the standing version. And if you want to try that half kneeling version in phase 2, we'll do that. All right, now we got our ankles. We're pretty warmed up. Okay, got our ankles, adductors. Now we're going to get into our activation and stabilization exercises. So starting with our leg lowers and floor slides, what we're going to do is lay on our back, We're going to make a W with the arms. I'll give you a front view. Okay, I'm going to exhale and reach overhead. And as I do that, I want my elbows, wrists, and hands and shoulders connected to the ground. Okay, knees are bent, but not extended and not bent too much, just right in the middle. We want a slight tuck of the pelvis. So if you have your lower back touching the ground, just slightly. And then from here, we're going to make a W, heads relaxed, inhale, exhale, arms overhead. Bring those ribs down and just try to reach all the way overhead. Inhale, pull down. And exhale, reach overhead. Okay, squeeze the glutes so that the lower back's flat. Inhale down. Exhale, arms overhead. Inhale down. Exhale, arms overhead. Okay, for the leg lower, we're going to bring both legs over the midline. You can use a band or your arms to hold on to one leg as long as your head is down. If you have a band, wrap it around the midfoot and hold here, or a strap. We're going to bring both legs together and hold on to one leg as we exhale the other leg to the ground. More advanced version is both arms down here. You can also hold on to like a sandbag or some weights as you do this, or to modify this, make it easier, keep those knees bent. Okay, so whatever you decide, go legs are straight. Exhale, one leg slowly goes down to the ground. Exhale like you're blowing out candles. Try to exhale and touch the ceiling with your breath. And go 5 on each side and switch. So there's your straight leg lower. Now we're going to go into our hip lifts, but if you want to just let those knees flap out and in for a nice stretch, go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to go into our hip lift. We want our feet in line with our knees, in line with our hips. Arms are down, head is down. And from here, squeeze glutes so that you make this nice angle here from the shoulders to the knees. For this nice line, and then slowly bring it down. From here, we're going to bring those toes up. It's going to help drive us using those glutes, and hold and breathe. Trying to use your lower back to bring your body off the ground. So if you felt like you just immediately just extended your back, come back down, feel the pelvic tilt and lower back touch the ground as you drive up. Keep those toes lifted and then slowly bring it down. One more. Hold. Should be able to hold this for about 5 to 10 to 30 seconds, but we'll go for about 5-10 seconds for each rep. I'm going for about 3 to 5 reps. To advance this, you go one leg. Okay. We'll go into one-legged in phase 2. For shoulder and hip cars, we can do these side lying or half kneeling or kneeling. I'm going to drive the knee to the elbow, open up the hip, rotate so that the foot goes back while the knee's bent. All the way around, knee will touch the knee. That's half of rep 1. Extend it back, open it up, drive the knee to the shoulder, rotate it back out, all the way back and around, back, up, and forward. Okay, switching side. Up toward the elbow, open it up, rotate back, knee touches knee, extend it back, open it up, back to start. One more. The key here is keeping that knee bent. If you want to put a tennis ball there, that's typically going to help. Okay. Next, shoulder cars. So we can do these standing, but we don't want to stand up right away. So starting in the kneeling position or hands and knees position, slowly work your way half kneeling, and then slowly work your way to standing. From here, shoulder car, reach across the body, one arm across the waist, reach all the way up. Thumb goes back, reach back, rotate, back of the hand touches the body, palm faces out. From here, reach back, open up, thumb goes up toward the sky, rotate across and down, and then same thing. This time squeeze the fist, find as much range as you can, go through the same range on the way back as you went forward. Okay, just with a closed fist. This time, switch, open fist, thumb back, thumb turns, palm face the body, the palm face the outside, reach back, thumb goes up, reach back and up, across the body, forward. I'll try that same thing with your fist. Clasp all the way around, back, up, forward, and down. Okay, now we're ready for our dynamic warm-up. So grab some water. This is when you're going to want to put your shoes on. If you're training barefoot, that's great. Nothing wrong with that. But today for me and for most beginners, if you're just starting to train, you don't want to train barefoot on your first day, because that could lead to some serious issues. I don't mind the mobility and stretching and activation without shoes on, but once you get into those jumping and hopping exercises, sometimes the ankle's just not ready for that. So we're going to wear shoes, especially for phase 1, beginner level 1 exercisers, which hopefully you're with me on that. All right. So if you're good at phase 1, you'll love phase 2. And this is just day 1, phase 1. We're not even at phase 2, or we're not at day 2 yet. So keep that in mind for day 2. We will hit very similar body parts, but different stretches. So we will hit everything differently next time. That will give you a little variety and options when you're on your off days and you're looking for some mobility work. From 0 to 20, you'll get a lot of good ideas. We may be taking a little bit longer because this is more educational, but you get my drift. Okay, now we're going to get into our dynamic warm-up, starting with our inchworm. So going back to lower and upper body, starting with a hamstring toe touch. First thing we want to do is, if you can't do an inchworm, is the toe touch. Okay, and that's just hand over hand, feet together, reach down and touch. If you can't touch your toes, then you don't want to do the inchworm. Then you're just going to touch your toes 5 times. And to progress that, you can put your feet elevated on a pad. So for beginners, we're just going to step behind a mat, touch the mat 5 times, toes elevated, touch 5 times, and then heels elevated, touch 3 to 5 times. So that'll be your exercise. Okay, so do the best you can at reaching for your toes if you want to regress. Otherwise, we're going to perform the inchworm. We're going to reach down, touch the toes, walk the hands out to a push-up position. From here, we're going to walk the hands slightly overhead and tiptoe those feet forward without bending the knees. A lot of people end up bending the knees, and we want to tuck the chin and then stand up, and everything should straighten at the same time. So it's a nice forward fold, touch the toes with your chin tucked, walk the hands out to a push-up plank, walk the hands overhead, walk the feet forward, go back to that forward fold, stand up, okay? 2 inchworms. Now we're gonna do 2 push-ups, okay? So let's go back to our forward fold, walk it out to hands and knees. Our push-up, option 1 is just hands and knees. Option 2, hands and knees, and bring the knees off the ground an inch, okay? And we're gonna hold for 10 seconds. Okay, option 3 is just a push-up hold for 10 seconds. Option 4, full push-up, okay? If it doesn't go straight down, straight up, just hold the bear plank or the push-up position without bringing our hips down or having our hips too high. Should be right in the middle, okay? We can go for 5 push-ups or a 10-second hold. Okay, I'll do slow push-ups. So end your push-up hold when I'm done with my push-ups. So it's a slow 1, 2, 3, down, up. 1, 2, 3, up. 1, 2, 3, up. 1, 2, 3, up. 1, 2, 3, up. Okay, there's our push-up. If that hurts your wrist, or if you're looking for modifications, just elevate the wrist to a bench or a box. Okay. Next is going to be our split squat, lateral squat, and single leg deadlift. So split squat, if you have a pad, we're going to go in the half kneeling position. If you have a line, that's perfect. We want the left foot, front foot to the outside of the line. We want the back foot slightly outside of the line. Okay. Then we want to make sure that our knee isn't over our toe here. So step that foot forward if you need to. And make sure we're not looking like this or like this. Right in the middle, 90 degrees almost everywhere. Straight back, look straight ahead at the horizon. Inhale, exhale on our back toe. Slowly go down and exhale up. Our body should stay vertical. Go for 3 to 5 reps on each side, driving through that front quad and foot. After 5, switch. Okay, now we'll perform our single leg reach or single leg deadlift. So if we have a ball, a very light ball, that's all we really need. And find a spot on the wall in front of your waist or a box. We're going to bring our feet together, reach toward that spot. And as we reach toward that spot, we want to get as long and as far away as possible to the part we're touching with our back foot. So that back foot is trying to get as far away as possible. So that does not mean this and does not mean opening up to the side. So to reach and touch, as we're doing that, we're hinging into that back hip, automatically going to have to hinge into the hip in order to make that movement happen. So this is your single leg reach. Going for 3 to 5 reps. Okay, if you don't have a ball, that's fine. We're just going to do the same thing with both hands. Make sure your front toe stays grounded. From here, we're just gonna work that hip a little bit more. We're gonna place our hands on a wall or a post. We're gonna extend that leg back, open up the hip. You're gonna feel it in the inside, and then we're gonna pull that back hip down and feel it in the back of the hamstring. Open it up, close it down, then try that on the other side. Open it up, close it down, open it up, and close it down. Good. Okay. Whew. Now, let's go ahead and move into our lateral squat. We want our feet about 4 feet apart. We're going to reach out in front. So if you have a ball, or you can just reach with your hands. We want to shift into one hip. Well, we don't want a narrow stance and look like this. This would be too narrow. From here, I'm going to widen my feet, squat into one hip as I reach forward, stand up. Okay, and go 3 to 5 on each side. 1, and you can also do this using like a support, maybe like TRX, about 3 to 5 on each side. So complete one side and then the other side. Again, if you need to use TRX strap here or even a bench, get in front of a bench, tap the pad with your glute on that side, and then stand up if you feel like you're either not getting low enough or you need some type of support. Okay, so there's your lateral squat. Those are the dynamic strength exercises. Now we're going to get into some more agility and speed exercises. We're going to start by loosening up the hip extensors passively and then actively. So we're going to pull the knee toward the chest and push the bottom toe into the ground. It's going to look like this from the side. Step, pull, and push off with the bottom ankle while maintaining a straight back. Don't go like this. And about 3 on each side. After that, leg cradle. Really important, our hand goes around the knee. The opposite arm goes over the shin. Pull toward the chest, step, switch. So this is just a passive and dynamic hip rotator stretch. Okay, about 3 to 4 on each side. After that, heel to glute, hinge and reach, stand back up. So just a more complex pattern than that single leg reach involving the back quad. So about 3 to 4 on each side. Okay, there's your heel to butt quad stretch. Next is going to be either linear or lateral. Since it's day 1, we're going to focus on linear, meaning moving forward. So our marching and skipping stuff. And then on day 2, we're going to focus on our lateral movements. So for march, toe is up, knee to hip or belly button, and then hand to chin. Make sure the arm swings back. You're not just bending your elbow. When it swings back, like you're pushing a hammer into the wall behind you. And it should be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. A lot of people end up slowing down because it's an uncomfortable movement and it involves a lot of energy and coordination and effort. So that's why people will not do that well with the march. First, you need the coordination. Opposites with your back straight, head straight. Then we just want to be able to do that in place And then we want to move forward. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, forward, 2, 3, 4, forward, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So you go all out with that march for 5 to 10 seconds, and then take a 15 to 30-second break. Next, after the high knees, is going to go skip. So we go march to skip. So we go into our march pattern, and then we try to skip in place and then skip forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. With your skip, animated hands and arms, get that spring in your skip, and we'll move forward. Okay. Again, about 5 to 10 seconds of skip before your next exercise. High knee run will be next. Linear pattern, great to do before your sprints. Again, your sprint or power work will come next. So high knee run is just running with high knees. So keeping one foot off the ground at all times. With marching, you have one foot on the ground at all times. Running, sometimes your legs are off the ground, both legs. So we're going to run in place, then we're going to run forward. Try not to flex at the spine and keep our pattern with our arms. A good thing to practice is just some arm swings and trying to get those arms back and loosened up. Okay, nice little mobility and activation exercise. So high knee run, starting with march, and then knee run into place, and then forward. Okay, probably the most explosive thing I'll do all day, beside any jumping or snatching or swinging exercises. Okay, so only about 5 to 10 seconds before your next set, because you need, for these speed and power exercises, you need rest in between the exercises. You can't just continually do high knee run, or you'll gas out quickly and get really acidic. So that's why you have to let your body push out the carbon, which is what it's trying to do and keep up with right now. So that's where excess post energy output, EPOC, excess post oxygen consumption, which basically means you're using oxygen after your workout. That's why it's really important to get your heart rate up and do metabolic sets, like 2 to 3 exercises in a row, circuit training, weightlifting, resistance training. That's all going to help with EPOC. All right, grab some water if you need it. That's all we need to do for day one. Phase one is just get up to high knees. If you're an adult, you probably don't need to do sprints next. If you're an athlete, it'd be a good time to do sprint. If you're a kid, a good time to do sprint. Okay. Otherwise, adults, we're going to, if we don't have anywhere to tempo run or sled push, then we're going to have to think of things you can do, whether it's getting on a treadmill and doing a tempo run, or pushing on a treadmill without any resistance, so it acts like a sled push. So you could do either of those, or you could do a box jump or kettlebell swing. I'm going to show you the kettlebell swing and box jump, and then I'm going to show you the one arm snatch and lateral bound. Okay, so I'll show you 4 power exercises you can do in phase one that we can also add in some regressions. So for the box jump, you want to think soft box is good, not a metal box, about 12 to 18, 24 inches max. For beginners, probably 12 to 18 inches if you can find a nice soft box like this. If you don't want a box jump yet, you can perform just a squat jump, hands to the hips, squat, jump. And that's just going to be 3 to 5 reps. For the box jump, 3 to 5 reps, starting a extended arm position, bent knee, ready stance. Forcefully swing those arms and land soft. Okay. Goal here is to land soft. So think about these as box lands. Okay. Make sure you step down, you don't jump down. Jumping down is actually a harder exercise than jumping up. Okay. So 3 to 5 here. Okay. Otherwise, go for the squat jump. Okay. That would be your first explosive exercise. So that would be your plyometric exercise. The next exercise is going to be a kettlebell swing. So for phase one, individuals might be too advanced. So you probably want to just focus on the kettlebell deadlift, which is totally fine. For kettlebell deadlift, set up with your feet on the outsides of the bell. Bell's right underneath your hips. From here, look about 5 feet in front of you on the ground. Hinge back, feet are about shoulder width distance. Hips go back, head goes down, but keep it in line with the ears and shoulders. Hands will grab the bell, looking 5 feet ahead. And then good grip, squeeze, inhale, and then exhale. Inhale at the top, tap, and go. If you need to put like a pad or something there for your deadlift, that's fine. For the kettlebell swing, okay, you're gonna put the bell in front of you, look about 5 to 6 feet ahead. You're gonna swing it back, it'll touch the butt. Once we get here, it's just squeeze the glutes, and then the bell's gonna naturally swing to about perpendicular with the ground, and then you're gonna repeat the process. Okay, it's gonna naturally come down. Once it gets here, you bend the knees. Once it gets here, you squeeze the glutes. Okay, don't bend the knees here and then come down. You'll bend the knees too much. Feet are still about shoulder width. 5 to 8. And then placing it where we started. So there's your kettlebell swing. Okay, so those are 2 exercises you can perform for your first exercise. Okay, next is going to be your overhead. Sorry, we said we're going to do the snatch and bound, but I also want to show you med ball exercise that you could replace. Let's just say you are not able to jump, you have back pain, or you're not able to jump because it just doesn't feel good. Okay, and the kettlebell swing, you're not doing that yet. Maybe you go for a med ball overhead slam. So taking a ball that when it bounces, it doesn't just spring up. You actually have to throw it to the ground to have it bounce up. So this rogue one is nice. Feet are a little wider than shoulders. Arms go overhead. Slam the ball down. Catch the ball. But don't squat like this and look at the ground. Look straight ahead the whole time. Okay. If you need to look at the ball when you catch it, that's fine. So I can go here and look down and catch. Generally, if we can, just look straight ahead and catch it if you can. Okay. 5 to 10 reps, preferably 8 to 10 if you can. These are going as hard as you can. You're trying to break the ball, break the ground. I'll give you a couple examples here. Okay, so there's your overhead slam. Phase 2, we'll perform our alternating split stance, overhead slam. Phase 3, might do a bent over chest pass. Phase 4, we'll work on some rotational throws and so forth. Okay, we can also do lunge step press and overhead throw toward the wall. So those would be some different med ball exercises that we can do with a little bit of a sample. Now, the snatch and the lateral bound. So with the snatch, you want a dumbbell, one dumbbell, feet about shoulder width. Dumbbell goes right above the knee. And then we're gonna shrug the shoulder and throw the bell toward the ceiling. Okay, you should, in your first couple sets, as a beginner, be able to do this without any pain. Okay, otherwise, this is more of an advanced exercise. All we're gonna do is just spring up and attack the ceiling with the bell. And for this, it's gonna be 3 to 5 reps on each side, trying not to extend the back, looking straight ahead. Okay, so there's your single arm dumbbell snatch, which we'll probably do in phase 4 or in the novice programming. So for the lateral bound, I like a cross step. So 1 foot in front, 1 foot behind, but diagonal. That back foot steps across to the other side. Back knee goes up like a rainbow. Front arm is opposite. So if I land on my right, I have my left arm forward. I'm doing the best I can at trying to land on the inside edge of my foot and not the outside edge of my foot. So looking for stability in the ankle here. About 3 to 5 reps on each side. Okay. In novice and athlete groups, we'll add in 45-degree bounds. All right. So that is your Olympic and power and speed work. All right. Like I said, if you were an athlete, we would have done some timed sprints, 10-yard flies or 40-yard flies or 40-yard dashes. We would have timed those. Okay. Adults, squat jump or box jump, add a med ball throw, and then you can pick any other core or power exercise. So for the core exercises, you can choose for, if you were to triset this, I would use either your bear plank reach, challenging rotation and extension, or I would just go forearm plank and hold. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of those exercises now. When I'm doing the bear plank reach, I like to have like a cone, a box, something about 12 inches high for me to reach and touch. I go in my hands and knees position, look for something to touch. Knees go off the ground an inch. Then I'm reaching and touching the box, 4 reps on each side. Whew. Okay, so there's your core exercise to go along with your power exercises. Or you can do a hands elevated plank. Okay, or progress to just a regular plank if we're not able to perform a bear plank. You can also just bring those knees down and tuck the pelvis and hold for 3 to 5 inhales and exhales if you're not going to do the bear plank reach. All right, so now grabbing water, we're going to move into our strength. So we're going to first start with a box squat. We're going to squat to a box. So most people, anywhere from 12 to 16 inches. Okay, wherever we can get the knees parallel. Okay, so that would be below parallel. We want a little higher. Okay, so what I could do is add another pad. And I'm only doing this just so I have a reference. I'm not sitting down. I'm just tapping it just so I have a reference point of where to touch. Okay. So I'm going to add in a little bit of weight, or you can use a med ball. Okay. I'll show you some options here. If you have a wedge or something to put your heels on, this would be the time to use it if you have knee issues or if you have lack of ankle mobility, which pushes your body forward. From here, I'm going to hold on to the bell. I'm going to look straight ahead, bend at the knees, tap the pad, and once I tap, I'm going to stand right back up. For the goblet squat, I'm going to get about 5 to 8 reps. Okay. Heavier I go, lower reps. Okay. First set, maybe 8 reps for a lightweight. Second set, 5 reps at a heavier weight. Third set, you can either skip or go back to that 5 to 8 rep approach with lighter weight. So after your goblet squat, in phase 1, you'll perform your first push exercise, which will either be a dumbbell press or a hand elevated push-up. Okay. So we would use a bench, place your hands about shoulder width, feet stand far away from the bench as possible without compromising the body's position. Okay. From here, we're going to lower down to the chest and then press off the bench. Okay. Slow lower, press off. So that would be your hands elevated push-up. Okay. Hands elevated push-up, or we'll perform a flat bench dumbbell press. Okay. So flat dumbbell press, what you would want to do is pick up the bells from the rack. Don't pick them up from the ground. From here, placing the bells on your thighs. Going for a light set for your first set, and then heavy set for your second set, and then a little bit light to moderate for your third set. From here, I'm going to slowly lower onto the back. Make sure I press up to start. Slowly lower down, and exhale on the way up. I don't want my elbows too far out, and I don't want them too far in. I'm going to go for about 5 to 12 reps here for that first set. If I feel like it's light, then I go to maybe 12. If it's heavy, I might go 5. And then I decide next, do I want to go heavier or lighter? Okay, so for that second set, going a little bit heavier or performing maybe more reps, but making the next set a little bit harder. Third set, like I said, you can skip or you can perform one more time. Now, for the core exercise, we're doing anti-extension, and we've already done a bear plank reach and forearm plank. So another one we can do is what we call a rollout with an ab wheel. We can modify this with exercise ball. Okay. For phase 1 individuals, we're going to think probably only going to be thinking about a forearm plank for this one, but we're going to work up to a forearm rollout. But eventually, we want you to be able to roll all the way out and back in. But in order to do that, we have to be able to get into that forearm plank position And one good exercise to help you get into that rollout position from the plank position is your plank saw. So we're going to put the forearms on the ground, place the feet on something that can move forward and back. We're going to push the ground away and then pull the ground toward you. Push, pull. You should feel the core kind of sinking together. This would be a dynamic plank exercise. For the plank saw, go for about 4. 1 down and up would be 1, about 4 to 8 reps for the plank saw. Okay, so that would be your anti-extension exercise to go along with phase 1. Okay, to regress that, just perform a forearm plank for 3 to 5 reps. So grab some water. We're going to go into our pod 2. So we did squat, push, anti-extension. Now we're going hinge, pull, lateral, anti-lateral flexion. So the hinge, we can go back to our single leg reach pattern. We could perform our kettlebell deadlift here, or we could think of maybe single leg dumbbell RDL. Now, we can do this a couple ways. So to regress this, we can just perform a single leg reach to space, 5 on each side. Option 2, we're going to maybe use a pad for some elevation on the ground, and maybe something like a rounded med ball. We're going to place the feet behind the marker. We're going to touch the pad in that single leg deadlift position and then stand up. So try to secure that length and then press into the ground on the way up. So that would be your modified single leg version. Now you might not have that available. So if you have a dumbbell, it's going to look like this. It's just a tap and go. I'm going to go for 5 to 8 reps on each side. First round, go lightweight. So second set, go a little bit heavier. And then third, you can go a little moderate back to your first set. Saving the higher load and intensity for that second set, just to get yourself set up with that first set. If you want to go at the same intensity and load, then that's fine. Or you can progress it for your second set. You can skip your third set or perform one more third set at a low rep range. Okay. Don't want to overdo it in phase 1 training. Okay. So if you feel like after sets 1 and 2, you're kind of feeling it, skip sets 3 or perform less reps or intensity in set 3. So that's our hinge exercise, single leg RDL with either a med ball or dumbbell. Then we're going to go into our pull. So it's either going to be a 1-arm pull down or a 1-arm row. Now, 2 ways I can do this. If I have something that I can reach overhead that I can put a band on, I'm going to use a half kneeling position. Reach for the band, place my knee on a pad, pull all the way down so my hand is next to my chest, and then slowly return, okay? So that would be your 1-arm pull down that you could perform. You could also perform a 1-arm row, and you can do this 2 ways, either half kneeling, pull, okay, both sides. We're gonna go for about 3-second holds for 5 reps. So it's a 1, 2, 3, reach, 1, 2, 3, reach, and then after 5 reps, switching to the other side. Try not to let the shoulder move into the ear. Bring that shoulder back and down as you pull back, and try not to rotate the body back. You want to add in some rotation on that front arm here. This might be more novice to advanced, but if you want to start adding that in phase one, you could. So either a one arm pull down or one arm row with a band, or you can also use a cable. I chose the band because most people aren't going to have cables. So try the band. And if you don't have cables or a band, but you do have a dumbbell or a kettlebell, then I suggest performing the one arm row with a bench that you can stand back with your feet wide, straighten the arms and legs, pull the bell to the ribs or the kettlebell. So dumbbell or kettlebell, slow return, just like your 1, 2, 3. Pull, hold for a second. 1, 2, 3. Pull, hold for a second. 1, 2, 3. And then switch side, and we'll go 5 to 8 reps, preferably 8 on that first set, lighter weight, and then going up in weight for that second set for 5 to 8 reps, and choosing if you want to do that third set or not. So that would be your one arm row with a band, either pull down in front or with a bell or kettlebell. So with that will be our anti-lateral flexion exercise. So 2 options is our side plank and lifting up and holding. You can do that with the knees straight or bent. If this is too much on the shoulders, I'm going to show you the single arm carry. Okay. From here, what we would do is try to put your knees, hips, elbow all in the same line. Then we're going to lift the hips up, hold. We can also lift that top knee and press that bottom glute into the ground. And about 3 to 5 inhales and exhales here. Look straight ahead. Okay, if that's too much on your shoulders or arm, we can do a one arm carry. Pick it up, kettlebell, deadlift style. Next to your side, look straight ahead, arm at the chest or waist. You're trying to go foot over foot down a line. Okay, so this would be anti-lateral flexion. You can hold the bell or kettle phase one in your hand just like this for about 10 to 20 yards at about 10 to 20% of your body weight. Okay, and then moving up percentile wise each phase of training. So starting at 10 to 20% and then moving slowly up each phase. So 10 to 20 yards each hand, 2 to 3 sets. You can go up in weight if you need to for the second set, and you can skip the third if you'd like. So either pick the side plank or the one arm carry. Side plank hold, 3 to 5 inhales on each side. Side one arm carry, that's going to be 10 to 20 yards at about 10 to 30% of your body weight. Okay, so if you're 200 pounds, so try 20 pounds to start in phase one. Okay, then if that's too light, just move up in weight in your next set or in your next phase or in your next week. So as long as you're progressing, that's fine, but you don't need to overdo it first. Now we're going to go into pod 3. So it's going to be our lateral squat, another push exercise, and a diagonal core exercise. So we have our diagonal core exercise set up with our rope. For our push, we're going to do an overhead press. So any type of pushing can be pushing forward, pushing down, or pushing overhead, or what we call vertical pressing. We can also say these are pressing exercises too. So lateral squat, like to hold on to a med ball, basketball, any ball, just to give your body some spatial awareness. Feet are wide. You can use the bench to touch the glute to the bench before you stand up, or you can hold on to a TRX strap to support your body as you do this in phase one. Okay. If you can, we're going for 3 to 5 reps. Okay. Reaching out, 1, continuing on the same side, 2, 3, and then switching, 1, 2, and 3. And we're only doing 3 reps on each side for 2 sets. Not going to increase weight, and we're not going to do a third set. So a little bit less on our third pod. For our push exercise, we're going to perform, we could either do a banded press if we wanted to, or we can perform a one arm press overhead. So if we have a pad and we don't have any shoulder mobility issues, we can do this, or we can use a landmine, which would basically mean that we're able to push at an incline like this. Okay, so this is at an incline, whereas a shoulder press is overhead. So we can go half kneeling, one arm press, 5 to 8 reps, keep that core stacked like we talked about, and switch after 5 to 8 reps. I could also alternate my arm here to get a little bit of rotation in those scaps and rib cage. Okay, so there's your half kneeling press with a landmine. If we don't have overhead shoulder mobility, or if it gives you pain to do this, otherwise one arm press. And we're gonna go for 5 to 8 reps on that first set. And then you can probably stick to the same weight. But if you feel like it's super light, then you can go up in weight. You can also do that single arm press on the back. Not getting as much range of motion, but still another option is a good option. All right. So there's your pressing exercise. The third in that set or pod is your diagonal core, which my son took the pin out. So let me see if I can find it. I can probably get a sip of water now too, can't I? All right. So it's somewhere. See how quick it takes me to find it. There it is. Oh. I guess it'll be okay. So we can show you different versions. So if you have a band, which if you don't have a rope, you're probably wondering, how am I going to do this if I don't have a rope? So if you have a band, it's going to look like this. So you're either going to do a tall, kneeling, or standing version. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to go across the body and down, reach across, look up, look across and down, across and up, across and down. Okay. You can bring one arm here and pull, reach, pull, push, pull, push. Okay. We're pulling toward that leg that's closest to the band. Pull, push. So it's a static pull, a static push. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And your eyes follow your hands. Okay. So you could do this kneeling, would be your first option. Okay. Half kneeling would be your second option. And then third option would be standing. Okay. So there's your chop. And then on day 2, we'll perform a lift. Okay. So it'll be the opposite pattern. So there's your 3 pods of exercises. Lateral squat, 2 sets only. For that press exercise, 2 sets only. And then for our diagonal core, 2 sets of about 5 to 8 reps on each side. Okay. Pod 4 is when you can do some calf work, So some toe raises, some bent knee, toe raises, work the calves, hip abduction, hip external rotation or internal rotation exercises. You can also work on more spinal corrective exercises. You can do your bicep curls here, 10 to 12 reps. You can do your tricep extensions if you want to get more pump. Okay. If you want to hit another back exercise or another hinge exercise, this would be the time to do it in your fourth pod. Otherwise, today's more of a knee dominant, push dominant day. We're going to save the hinge and pull pattern for day 2, phase 1. So that is phase 1. Pod 4, like I said, is up to you. Pod 4 is whatever you want. You can skip it. I'm not going to do pod 4. So that's really for if you think you have something left in the tank. Okay. Now for conditioning, it's either bike or treadmill, or go outside for a walk or a tempo run. And it's either high intensity interval training or long slow duration training. So what I mean by high intensity interval training is using something like a bike or a treadmill to perform the work. Okay. If you're using a bike, the bike seat goes up to your hip. Okay. You want a good distance between your hand and your head. So a nice long distance. We don't want to be too close. And we want to stay upright the whole time and look straight ahead. You're going to move a little bit, but we don't need to be like this. Okay. So for the bike runs or the bike tempos, we're going to go about 110 to 130% of our average RPMs for what we can ride for about 2 miles as fast as we can. So whatever that is. So you'd have to test yourself what your RPM average is after 2 minutes, 2 miles, 3 minutes, as fast as you can go. Some other tests will make you do it for 5 or 6 minutes. Okay. So just depending, look up the aerobic capacity test. So you can go basically as high as you can, about 90% intensity. Then you're going to relax for 20 seconds. So this is a 10 by 20. And what I do is I let it count down from 3, 2, 1. Go for 10 seconds. Look straight ahead. Okay. So that was 87 RPM at about 600 watts. And then I relax for 20 seconds, really slow. Okay. All right. So I'll perform that 4 more times. Okay. On day 1. And then next day I'll do 5 reps. And the next day I'll do 6 reps. Or I can go on the treadmill for the same thing, but tempo runs. And I could also go bike or treadmill for 30 to 40 minutes. But try to stay around 20 to 30 minutes if you're doing your conditioning. Okay. So that is your full body program. Phase 1, day 1, your bike, treadmill do last, conditioning do last. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.